I spent my whole life resenting my mom, who, as I was always told, walked out on me and my dad when I was just 2 years old. Not long ago, I tracked her down on social media, and she ended up telling me a completely different story about my father. Growing up, I believed, without question, that my mom had abandoned us. That's what everyone in my family said over and over. They told me she packed her things and left when I was a toddler, and I carried that bitterness with me through every stage of my life. Part of it was because I saw my dad working himself to the bone day and night just to keep us afloat. I hated that for the most part my grandmother was the one raising me instead of my mom. Anytime I asked about her, my grandma painted her as this mean, spiteful, selfish woman with a bad attitude. And I felt completely justified in being angry at her. My family made it sound so certain, and I had no reason to doubt them. Then a few weeks back, I found her profile online while I was over at my girlfriend's place. The sight of her living what looked like her best life just lit me on fire with rage. She's a chef now, maybe even running the kitchen at some Michelin star restaurant, traveling around the world, living in this huge apartment, and apparently married to some handsome guy. In a burst of pure anger, I messaged her directly, accusing her of ditching me so she could live carefree, and told her that karma would eventually catch up with her. She read the message, and instead of cussing me out like I expected, she replied by asking if I wanted to meet in person so I could tell her to her face how I felt. I couldn't believe it because my dad had always claimed she never took responsibility for anything. I agreed to meet, but didn't tell anyone about it. She invited me to this fancy restaurant and even sent me an Uber to pick me up. At first, it was painfully awkward. I kept coming at her with all my anger and even teared up a little in the middle of it. She just sat there quietly, letting me talk. Eventually, I asked her straight out why she had left me. That's when she said, "Do you really want to know the truth? It's ugly, and you're probably not going to like it. I'm fine with staying the villain in your head, if that's easier for you." I told her I wanted to hear it, and so she began explaining everything. She told me she met my dad just before she graduated college. A few months into dating, he told her he was getting kicked out of his apartment because the landlord's relatives needed the place. She offered to let him crash at her place until he could find somewhere else to live. Months went by, and he still didn't make any move to get his own place. Then she got offered a job in another country and told him straight up he could either stay in her apartment while she was gone or come along with her. That's when they had this massive blowout argument. She told him she wasn't ready for the kind of commitment he was pushing for her and that the two of them had totally different goals in life. As much as she cared about him, she knew they just weren't a good match. They kept living together anyway, and not long after that she found out she was pregnant. She admitted to me that she seriously considered not having the baby. She was only 22 and didn't feel ready to be a mom. She didn't have those warm, motherly instincts people talk about. On top of that, she was already struggling with depression and later learned she had ADHD that no one had caught earlier. My dad talked her into keeping the baby, telling her he had just as much right to me as she did, and that if he had it, he would fight for custody, because I was his kid too. So she ended up having me. She said after I was born, things got really hard for her. My dad kept dragging his feet with legal stuff and refused to move out. She told me that even though she did love me and had moments where she felt genuine happiness, they were buried under these crushing waves of depression. She was terrified she might hurt me. Then she pulled out actual court documents from back then to prove what she was saying. Eventually, she hit such a low point that she told my dad she'd stay if he took on most of the responsibility for raising me. He agreed, but according to her, he barely put in any real effort. Things got so bad that around my second birthday, she tried to take her own life after a brutal fight where my dad admitted he had messed with her birth control on purpose. She showed me the papers about her being placed in a 72-hour psychiatric hold and the legal documents where the court declared her unfit to be a parent. I honestly felt sick to my stomach hearing all of this. I might not have believed her if she hadn't brought that mountain of proof with her. Then she asked me what I meant in my message when I said we were barely scraping by. I told her we weren't exactly living in poverty, but we definitely weren't doing well, and I was struggling to save enough money to go to college in another city. She looked stunned and asked me what my dad had been doing with the monthly payments she'd been sending. I told her we never saw a dime from her. That's when she pulled out another stack of papers. Guys, she's been paying child support every single month, almost $3,000. By court order, she's supposed to pay me $1,500 a month, but she went ahead and doubled it on her own just because she wanted to. She didn't have to, but she chose to. When she found out I hadn't been getting any of it, she was clearly upset and said she was going to get in touch with her lawyers right away so the payments would go directly to me. Before I left, she apologized to me over and over. She said she was sorry I had to go through all of this. She was sorry she hadn't been stronger back then. She was sorry she let me grow up in the kind of environment I did. She cried, I cried. Then she told me she'd be reaching out again about the payments and that it was completely up to me if I ever wanted to see her again. She admitted she could never be the kind of mom I probably wished for, but at the very least, she could be someone who's there for me in whatever way I needed. I hugged her, and we both cried again. She had the restaurant pack up some food for me to take home and called me another Uber. When I got back, my dad wasn't home, so I went straight to bed, and the next morning I left the house and started staying with my girlfriend. My whole life feels like a lie now. First update, my life is still falling apart. I found out my mom never actually abandoned me. She lost custody because of her mental health, and my dad tricked her into having me. After I made that post yesterday, I started digging even deeper because at this point I don't trust my dad at all. I found records of domestic violence charges against him for what he did to my mom. Looks like he either didn't serve time at all or got some ridiculously light sentence. This all happened when I was 2, right after she was hospitalized. I even found a restraining order she had filed against him. Turns out things were way worse than she told me. He didn't just tear her down emotionally. He physically abused her. Now I'm just disgusted by him, and I feel like screaming every time I think about it. I'm still living at my girlfriend's place. My dad keeps calling asking why I haven't been home in so long. I just told him my girlfriend's family is dealing with some personal issues, and I'm helping out. After talking to my mom, I thought I might confront him directly, but now I honestly don't feel safe doing that. Do you have any advice? Second update, the last few weeks have completely flipped my life upside down. Long story short, I learned my mom never actually abandoned me. She was declared unfit to be a parent because of mental health struggles. She'd been paying my dad $3,000 a month in child support, $1,500 by court order, and another $1,500 just because she wanted to. I also found court records showing my dad had been charged multiple times for assaulting her. After spending some time living at my girlfriend's place, I decided to go back home for a bit just to grab my documents and a few other important things. My dad was there, and we ended up talking for a while. At one point, I casually asked him, "Hey, did Mom ever actually pay you any child support for me?" He rolled his eyes and launched into this whole speech about how the courts are always on the mother's side and how he was told not to expect anything from her. Then he went into this old story about how he supposedly begged her for money to buy my school supplies, and she refused. I know for a fact that's a lie because Mom has detailed records of every single payment she ever sent him. Every month since she started working, over 15 years ago, she's been transferring money to him. It started at $400 a month, then went to $600, then $1,000, and eventually hit $3,000. But he kept whining about how hard it was for him, and even said he regretted not pushing her for more in court, claiming the system was stacked against him, and that even now we were barely scraping by living paycheck to paycheck. It was surreal. After he left, I snooped around his room and found a stack of cash hidden in his sock drawer, over $5,000 in $100 bills. I have access to the family bank account, and those $3,000 monthly payments have never shown up there. I even checked to see if there were any big withdrawals of $100 or more that could explain the cash, but nothing lined up. This whole thing just keeps getting worse and worse. I feel disgusting, and I can't even put it into words. I even checked to see if there were any big withdrawals of $100 or more that could. Meet again. I'm wondering if I should just cut my dad out of my life completely. Third update before I started sharing my story here, I honestly didn't realize my relationship with my dad wasn't normal. I never really wrote much about his behavior before, but here's the short version. From the time I was a kid, he basically made me his personal accountant. I was in charge of keeping track of expenses and balancing what we had left in the bank. There were so many times I had panic attacks because we didn't have enough to make it through the month with what was left. If I ever asked to go do something fun like see a movie, he would blow up at me, saying we didn't have money for that kind of thing. And on the rare occasions he did say, yes, it always came with a ridiculous list of chores and errands. Like if I asked about the movies, he'd say, fine, but only if you clean the whole house, drive grandma to her doctor's appointment, pick up some things for me, make dinner, and a bunch of other stuff. And if I missed even one small thing like forgetting to take out the trash, he'd start a fight and guilt me until I just stayed home. He constantly made me feel like I wasn't enough. He'd tell me I wouldn't survive in college, that I wasn't capable of certain things, that I didn't have the talent to succeed. He had a terrible temper too. One time in the car, I joked about rooting for another football team, and he literally kicked me out of the car in the middle of the road. I had to walk all the way home. Stuff like that happened more than I can even count. For years I thought it was my fault or that all dads were like that. But let's be real, it's not normal at all. So what's going on now? I reached out to my mom again after finding out all this new information. I told her everything I'd learned. She admitted things were just as bad as I suspected, and that she had been genuinely afraid for her life. Turns out my dad had friends in law enforcement who were watching her and making her life miserable. They'd pull her over for bogus reasons, write her up for tiny things, and basically do anything they could to intimidate her or dig up dirt on her. He gave her an ultimatum. Either she gave up without a fight, or he would make her life and mine a living hell. My mom told me he started hitting her almost immediately after I was born, within the first week. So when he hit her with that ultimatum, she felt completely trapped and hopeless and tried to take her own life. She survived, but it broke her even more. After she got out of the hospital, my dad went to court to get full custody of me, and since she'd already been declared unfit because of her mental health, it was pretty easy for him. She told me the court was pretty harsh with her back then. About a year later, she tried to fight for visitation rights and reached out to my dad. He told her she could be part of my life again, but only if she got back together with him. She refused, and that turned into another ugly fight. That night, he beat her so badly, she ended up in the hospital. When the doctors saw her injuries, they were legally required to report it. He was sentenced to a year in jail, but served only 3 months. During that time, my grandmother had custody of me. When he got out, he somehow got custody back. I was able to confirm all of this after reaching out to my Aunt Mia, who hadn't spoken to our family in over 10 years. She had been documenting everything my mom went through, taking pictures of her bruises and recording my dad yelling at her and threatening her. Aunt Mia told me she had even testified against him in court and could back up every word my mom said because he had treated her the same way too. I asked to see the photos and hear the recordings. She was hesitant at first, but part of me still didn't want to fully accept it was all true. So yeah, my dad is a complete monster. I told my mom everything I'd found out about the money, and she said that legally there's not a lot we can do about what's already happened. But she spoke to her lawyer, and since I'm now 18, she started the process to have the child support sent directly to me. Until it's finalized, she's going to send me $1,500 a month. Once everything is set up, I'll start getting the full amount. She also offered to cover my university enrollment fee, plus the deposit and first month's rent for an apartment, so I can be as independent as possible. I only submitted my applications a couple of weeks ago, so I should hear something by September. We both agreed that it's not a good idea for either of us to confront my dad directly right now. So the plan is to tell him that my girlfriend's parents invited me on a vacation. I talked it over with her and her parents, and they didn't even hesitate. They said yes right away. Now they know the whole situation, and they're fully behind me. My mom and her parents paid for a 2-week trip to the country next to ours. They've got a summer house there. I told my dad about the plans, and he said if her parents were covering the whole thing, then fine. But he added that before I left, I had to help him with a million different chores. So I'm already bracing for a fight. At least I managed to gather all my important documents and open a bank account thanks to my aunt. So on Thursday, I'm officially leaving for 2 weeks, and honestly, I'm praying that by the time I get back, everything will be resolved. I'm taking all my important stuff with me, just in case things go downhill fast. It's been such a rough time, so please don't ask me for updates. I'll post one when I feel ready and when the time is right. Update for everything went downhill way faster than I expected. On Wednesday night, the day before I was supposed to leave, my dad blew up at me because I didn't take his car for an oil change. He called me every name in the book and said I was selfish and ungrateful and that he'd raised me better than this. Then he called my grandma over and she joined in, saying how disappointed they both were in me and how I clearly wasn't mature enough for a vacation, let alone moving away for college. They kept me up until 4 in the morning calling it a family meeting, but it was really just 2 hours of tearing me apart over everything I've ever done wrong. I was crushed. I cried and felt completely hopeless. Thankfully, my girlfriend called because I hadn't been answering her texts, and she helped me pack my things while my dad was asleep. I left without saying goodbye. Around 1 in the afternoon, the next day, my dad texted me acting like everything was fine. The 2 weeks flew by. I got an email saying I'd been accepted into a university with a solid political science program. I accepted and got in line for a dorm room. Then everything blew up again. My mom stopped sending my dad the extra money she'd been giving him. Now she was only paying what the court ordered. My dad completely lost it. He started calling and screaming at me to come home immediately. Then he called me crying, saying that his wife had shown up again and was taking him to court, and now we didn't have money to pay the mortgage. I called my mom to ask if it was true, and she said no. She just filed a request with the court to send the child support payments directly to me instead of him, and the court had approved it. Then my grandma started texting, saying I needed to come back immediately because my dad had a heart attack. So I went home and found the place a complete disaster. Empty beer, cans everywhere, strong liquor bottles on the table, cigarette butts all over the floor. To everyone who bet my dad was spending money on substances and a flashy lifestyle, congrats, you were right. Turns out the second I left, he threw a massive party and invited all his new friends from the fancy bars he'd been hanging out in. I found this out from a woman who was with him in the hospital, his girlfriend, I guess. She didn't even know. I existed and kept calling our house his vacation home. I asked her a couple of questions, and she answered honestly. She was actually pretty nice, and now she was disappointed in him too after realizing he'd lied to her. Apparently, my dad had been taking that $3,000 and spending almost all of it to create this fake successful guy image. Buying expensive clothes, hanging out in hotel bars where he met her, then taking her and her friends to high-end restaurants and clubs. She didn't outright say it, but she hinted they were regularly doing stuff at those parties, same as the night he overdosed. I thanked her and told her that money wasn't his and that he'd lied to her. She stayed until he woke up, and we drove him home. Then she broke up with him. After that, I told him straight up that I was leaving. He lost it, hit me, broke my nose. I was honestly scared. He wasn't even fully recovered yet. At the hospital, I told a nurse what happened, and the police got involved. The next day, my mom picked me up right away and took me to live with her. She's been helping me with all the legal stuff about my dad and got me moved to another city. Everything happened really, really fast. My girlfriend's staying with me because honestly, I'm scared. I blocked my dad, but I'm still getting letters from him with threats. It's this weird mix of relief and dread at the same time. Edit. Answering some common questions. Why didn't your mom take you earlier if she knew your dad was abusive? Like I've said before, she lost her parental rights because of her mental health. And things only got worse after that. My dad and his buddies in the police, plus the judges in our small town, were extremely biased against women. How'd you find those documents so easily? I didn't. It wasn't easy at all. I reached out to Aunt Mia myself and pushed her to show me everything she had. Nothing just fell into my lap. I went after every single non-public document I could find. If you're 18, why is your mom still paying child support? Where I live, child support, including state payments, lasts until you finish university or turn 25. Are you going to sue your dad to get the money back? No, it wouldn't be worth it. Proving he spent it all would be almost impossible, and in the end, I was still fed, clothed, and had a home with heat, electricity, internet, and water. It would take months and only serve as revenge. My mom's still scared of him, and honestly, I don't want to see him again either. We're going for a restraining order, and we're keeping records of every letter and every attempt he makes to contact me. Someone suggested watching out for him opening loans or accounts in my name. We're already on that. How did your mom just have a lawyer ready? She didn't. My first post went up over a month ago, and she contacted a lawyer shortly after we met, so she could transfer the child support payments directly to me. That lawyer then referred her to another firm that's now handling our case. As for school, I'm still waiting for my dorm placement. For now, I'm living with my girlfriend in the city, renting through Airbnb. Classes start in October, not next week. And no, I don't live in the U.S. Update 5. Hey, everyone, quick update. I'm the author's girlfriend. Alex's dad attacked him on September 19th, and he was close to dying. Yesterday, they finally moved him out of the ICU into a regular hospital room. Legal action against his dad has already started, so I can't share too many details. I'll post another update if Alex's condition changes. Update 6. My dad died right in the middle of the legal battle. He attacked me brutally because I was about to leave, and if I left, the child support payments that he spent on women and a flashy lifestyle would stop. Last year, my whole world collapsed when I found out my mom never actually left us. My dad abused her and did everything he could to keep her from taking me away. He turned my life into a complete nightmare. I've been sharing all the details here over the past few months. After I got out of the hospital, my mom and I hired 2 amazing lawyers. One took on the abuse case, and the other handled the money misuse. The child support case moved quickly. He was ordered to pay me back 50% of the money he got over the last 3 years with no extra fines. But the abuse case got complicated fast. Turns out he was planning to claim temporary insanity to dodge responsibility. He even told his girlfriend about the plan. Luckily, she was a decent person and told the police everything. The charges were upgraded to attempted murder. After his girlfriend left him, he got deep into debt. A harsh prison sentence was looming, and he had no more money to save himself. He died last Friday. I was numb all week, but today it finally hit me. I'm free. I don't have to look over my shoulder anymore. I don't jump at footsteps anymore. I don't get anxious when I pick up my phone. I'm free. Finally free. So that's a thanks for hearing my story all the way through. Drop a comment about how you felt when you found out my dad attacked me. Honestly, I was half afraid of that from the start, knowing what he did to my mom. Yeah, man, he clearly knew he had no job, no skills, and all he could do was blow other people's money. That's why it all ended so badly. Check out our previous videos right here. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and good luck to you all.